Welcome back, everybody, to Sons of Pitches. It's episode 23. Domestic football is back. The international break is over, thankfully, although it was a little more enjoyable, seeing as we got to go to a game, Gianluca and I, and see Italy play, so that made it a little more exciting. But we're back. The Premier League is back. That's where we'll start. We'll start in England, and opening game was eventful. It was Newcastle-West Ham, a game that I thought West Ham were going to see out. But Newcastle nicked it in the end 4-3 despite going down to 10 men. Pretty big result for West Ham given the table. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it was a very exciting game. I mean, there was action from minute one all the way to the end. I think it's an awesome result for Newcastle. I mean, they've really been struggling. I think we say it every week how bad they've been with injuries and fatigue in the squad, and I think to play against a West Ham side that I would describe as pretty even with them on paper. I think going into the season they would have expected to be competing with each other in a similar place in the table, and I mean, it was an entertaining game. It showed exactly that, and 7-goal thriller. It was awesome. I thought Isak was brilliant in the game. I know he scores 2 penalties, but he just causes such a threat. He's such a dynamic attacker. And I thought it was really nice to see Harvey Barnes come back and get a couple of goals in the team, too. Someone I know they've missed a lot. I mean, they brought him into the team, and he's had an impact, I feel like, every time I've watched him play, but he can never stay fit. So hopefully he can actually do that this time and provide some impact for them off the bench or in the starting 11, because Newcastle certainly need it. And hopefully this result can help them kick things on, because they need that too.
Yeah, and we talk about Newcastle injuries, and they had more injuries this game and had 2 subs they brought in, still have to get subbed off again. So yeah, that never ends. But in my opinion, I don't know if you guys watched this game closely. I think West Ham got robbed. I don't know if you guys saw that penalty on Calvin Phillips.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that call. I genuinely cannot stand it. Because in midfield, if that happens, it's a foul on, I think, Anthony Gordon. It's 100% a foul on Anthony Gordon. So how that's given a penalty is egregious, in my opinion, and that ruined the game. And honestly, for Calvin Phillips, I mean, we give him a lot of shit because he's been pretty bad. He didn't deserve to he was playing okay, I guess, but to go ahead and now have that basically loss over his head as his fault is a shame, too. So yeah, I think that was pretty shit. But yeah, definitely good entertainment to start the weekend.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Calvin Phillips, because I remember I was scrolling social media and he was getting absolutely ripped apart on social media, given the fact that I think it was 3-1 West Ham when he was introduced into the game. Mm-hmm. And obviously they went on to lose, and it's pretty easy to point the finger. Somebody I wanted to talk about from the Newcastle side that wasn't involved at all on the pitch. There's a lot of news coming out about Sandro Tonali. I know it's something that we didn't have written down on the document here, but I was watching TalkSport and listening just to see what the British media was saying. Shit's getting real for Sandro Tonali. It looks like he's set to receive a second sanction, a second disciplinary action. It's probably going to be more games suspended for. I think that's what it should be, personally. I mean, apparently the first set of accusations when it came to sports betting was against his time, was during his time with Milan. And I guess these new accusations coming out are about his time in the Premier League. Apparently he was betting the first month and a half or so that he got to play with Newcastle. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. It's kind of sad. But now more than ever, especially being a Milan fan, I'm really starting to think maybe Milan was up to something when Tonali was sold. I hope it's not something that comes back to bite them in the ass. I'm not sure if there's a way that, they could revoke the fee and, somehow Newcastle will get their money back. But this is new territory, I think, for modern day sports with these gambling instances, and it seems like Tonali's got a real problem.
Yeah, it's a real shame because he was such a talented player and he was doing so well when he came to Newcastle. I know I was really sad to see him leave Serie A. I know how much it affected you being a Milanista yourself, but
Mm.
I certainly enjoyed him for the first, I don't know, 2-3 months he played, and then we might never see him play in the Premier League again. I mean, it's a real shame. I think, I don't know, it's tough to say if he deserves it. I would be really interested to see what the penalty is, though, because, I mean, we saw what Ivan Toney got. Ivan Toney was betting throughout his whole career in the Premier League. If we're going to do it on a time basis, Toney was only in the Premier League for a couple months, so maybe it'll be a bit shorter of a ban. But who knows? I mean, you never know with the Premier League and their ways of laying down the law, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, and I don't know how it could get any worse because by that point he wasn't necessarily found guilty of betting infringements throughout his career. So I think it's not like you can add that as like knowing that this other ban has already been given out. So I think it would have to be separate and pretty much be similar, if not more lenient than Tony's. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, you can definitely pinpoint Newcastle's downfall with his suspension. So that's a huge miss.
Certainly an important player, yeah. And even Eddie Howe was talking about his importance and how he's desperate to get the player back. And like you guys said, he was super impactful. The question that was raised in the media, and one that I thought of as well, is people are wondering if Tonali was gambling during the investigation was ongoing, because obviously if he was gambling on games when he was still in the Serie A with Milan, people are kind of worried that maybe he's like actually addicted, but we'll see what comes out in the papers. We'll move to another game in England where we had Chelsea suffer a typical result of this season. I think it's kind of been the story of their season. It was a 1-1 draw, I believe, to Burnley. Not too much good to say again.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Chelsea fan, I don't know how you could stand watching this team. I mean, they make so many horrible mistakes. They literally have no ideas except give the ball to Cole Palmer, and if he can't make anything happen, nothing happens for this team. I mean, even when they score, you can't even celebrate because they just go and concede. I mean, just about immediately after every time. They're so susceptible to that, and I just don't know when it's going to end if you're a Chelsea fan. I mean, everyone talks about them improving and they're going to make a step forward this season. I don't see it. I think it's just going to keep going backwards. And I feel for Pochettino. I feel like he kind of he wasn't really given the cards like that he would have wanted. He wasn't dealt a good hand. So I think it's going to be tough to see where they go from here. I mean, obviously it's a Burnley side that have struggled. I didn't think they played well in the game at all. They played down a man for 50 minutes. And I mean, another thing too that really bothers me from the Chelsea aspect is like when I see a guy like Fofana who's on loan from Chelsea and how good he is and how like impactful he is on the game and how much of a presence he draws for a team like Burnley. Like I just wonder what he could be doing if he was playing with Chelsea and some of those better players. If he had Cole Palmer playing passes to him, it just makes me wonder sometimes. It really does.
Yeah, it seems like Chelsea just can't get out of their own way. They can't put anything together, any good run of games together, and that's really been their downfall because they've showed flashes of being a real competitive team. I do think Cole Palmer's a very, very good player, but I mean, like you guys said, it's like he came in there and sounds like, all right, cool, now solve our problems, do the work for us, and they're not really able to kind of integrate into a full team. So that's been pretty poor, but no, good result for Burnley. Jesus, sorry. And that relegation battle is definitely heating up a bit.
Yeah, it was a hard fought point, and we talk about the penalty on Calvin Phillips. I thought the sending off of Assignon was awful. I don't know if you guys saw that challenge, but I'm pretty confident he didn't even touch the Chelsea attacker. I forget who it was, but. Yeah, it was nice to see Burnley get a point, and honestly, it's kind of nice to see Chelsea continue to struggle. I think they've been on everybody's bad side ever since this Bowley era and all the throwing money at their problems. We'll see what happens, but we can move to another draw, another team who are putting together some lackluster results, not playing to their standard, and it's Manchester United going away to Brentford and being absolutely second best by all accounts. Brentford. I think the stat Thomas Frank read off in his post-game interview was that Brentford created the most shots ever in a Premier League game. I think it's 33. I struggle to to believe that that's true. We probably should fact check that, but yeah, Brentford. It was two really, really late goals in the game. It's becoming a recurring theme now. 96th minute, 99th minute, we saw Mason Mount come back into the side and score a goal. What do you guys think of this result? What does it say about United?
I think it says exactly what I've been saying to you guys just about week in and week out about United. I've been very critical of Ten Hag and of this team and how they play and how they scrape away results, and I think that that's exactly what we saw this week. I mean, they don't play good at all. I have to credit Onana. I think he's the reason that they come away with a point in this game at all. I think if he's not the goalkeeper, I think they get battered, actually. But for me, like, when I watch this United team, like, it's very reminiscent of Chelsea. Like, there's nothing. I don't see any forward progress. It's always 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's very sickening to me. And Ten Hag is, like I've been saying, I feel like a broken record saying this, but Ten Hag is always saying they're making progress, and I don't understand. Like, what he must be watching a different game. Honestly, he must not be seeing the same things that we're seeing, because I don't understand what steps he's seeing forward. I don't know what good game he sees his team playing, because I don't see them play well ever, really. They play well for 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes at most, and then all hell breaks loose and it's chaos for the rest of the game, really.
Yeah, it's too bad because, this, not for nothing, United were on a pretty good run of games. Obviously, they beat Liverpool in this kind of weird FA Cup battle. But, I mean, their Premier League form wasn't too bad, and then it seems like the international break came at the worst time. It's kind of derailed any momentum that they would have gotten from the result against Liverpool. They have to go away to Chelsea. They host Liverpool after that in the Premier League. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen, Jay?
Yeah, I don't know, because I think like you said, it looked like a perfect scenario for them. Like, they go into the break on a good form, all that stuff. They start getting some players back. They get Mount, they get Martinez back, and then it looks like they go pull it out last minute, just like old times, Fergie time, scoring in the last minute, even when they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And then they just go and concede. And then it comes out that they've lost Lindelof and Martinez for another month to injury. So it's just like you almost got back to a real recognizable United from a historical perspective. I mean, nowhere near a title contender, but you almost got back to that competitive team. And then right away you fall back into the same trap you've been stuck in for the last 2-3 years. And it's against a Brentford team who's been awful. And that international break really worked the opposite for them. They were able to kind of collect themselves and come back and play a good game. Because they haven't won in 5-6 games. So yeah, that was just definitely. I'd be very disappointed as a United fan.
Yeah, rightfully so. And like we said, I mean, they do have to go to Chelsea. They have to host Liverpool. I believe it was a 0-0 draw earlier in the season between Liverpool and United, and I think you summed it up well. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, would I be super surprised if United went and got 4 points from these next 2 games? No, because you really don't know what you're going to get. But there were some positives. They got Rasmus Højlund back. I think he made his first start in the Premier League since he was injured. I think he did play in the international window. So we'll see if they can bring anything into that Chelsea game. But we'll get to the top of the table where we had 2 pretty important fixtures. We'll start with Liverpool, who honestly, by all accounts, in my opinion, were the winners of the weekend. They had to pull it out of the fire against Brighton. Common theme in Liverpool's season with conceding the first goal. They did it again. It was a Danny Welbeck super strike. It looked like he was going to do his former employers and rivals, Man City, a favor. But Liverpool ultimately pulled it out. I'm not really too surprised at the result.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was. I just kind of felt like once Brighton scored, they never really offered too much after that. I mean, they're always, I don't know, every time I watch Brighton play, I really don't. They're another one. I really never know what I'm gonna see. They could score 5 goals, but they could give up 7. Like, you just never know what you're gonna expect. And especially when you go up 1-0 at Anfield, you're always going to be on the second foot. I think after that, Liverpool's always going to be piling on the pressure. And when you're a team, I think that tries to build out from the back like Brentford and kind of makes a lot of mistakes from time to time. I think it felt always inevitable that Liverpool were going to get themselves back in the game and eventually take the lead and go on and win. And I mean, what a weekend to do it. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better result in the other game, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in a few minutes here. But from a Liverpool standpoint, I mean, it's another goal for Salah. He just keeps on rolling. I mean, he's on the score sheet every week with goals and assists. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's been one of, if not the most prolific attackers in Europe, and I think it's just incredible to me. I mean, he's a winger and he's putting numbers up like that. I think he kind of gets overlooked sometimes when we talk about top goal scorers and playmakers in their own right, because he's always contributing. He's always got the eye for a pass in the final moment and the last ball, and he's on the end of the last ball a lot of the times too. So it's just always a joy to see. Obviously, he's a former Roma player, so I have a soft spot in my heart for Mo Salah. But I just enjoy seeing him do great stuff and scoring again.
Yeah, I know Brighton went up early, but apart from probably the first 15 minutes, Liverpool was like in cruise control the entire time. I do think Brighton played better than they have in the last couple months. I think they've kind of regressed a lot this season, which is expected considering their turnover. But I think they put up a good fight. But Liverpool, yeah, they just showed their class. That attack looked lethal at all times. It looked like they could score whenever they wanted, however they wanted. I think 2-1 was actually more of a surprise. I think they'd probably back themselves to go a bit more. And I think they had a really nice called back goal for offsides as well. It was like you said, winners of the weekend for sure with that win. But yeah, I'll shout out Kwanzaa and Connor Bradley. I have two young kids who are slotting in as if they are perennial starters in this team. And I don't think Kwanzaa especially had any sense of getting any first team game time this year, and to come in and slot in pretty nicely is nice to see. The game's definitely got a good future ahead of it.
And I want to shout out Alexis McAllister as well on the Liverpool side. He's certainly entering into this elite stratosphere of silky midfielders. He was on the score sheet again with an assist. He's in an incredible vein of form, really the form of his life. But I want to talk from a Brighton perspective. I don't know what you guys think. Maybe I'm being too critical, but I think it's about time we start criticizing Roberto De Zerbi. I think this honeymoon phase of him being an elite Premier League manager is kind of over. I don't know if he's been found out. I'm not sure if it's the injuries. Maybe, perhaps he hasn't managed his squad as best as he should be. But, I mean, by all accounts, 6 months ago, this was the guy that was going to, be Liverpool's next coach and was going to follow Pep and go to Man City once he ultimately leaves that job. And, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think Brighton have been in bad form. And I'm wondering why De Zerbi isn't taking more of the fall. I don't know. Maybe it's critical, but
for me personally, I think it's more down to De Zerbi's stubbornness. Really, he's cabadost, as you would call him in Italian. He doesn't like to change his ways at all. Once whether he's winning, losing, or drawing, they're always going to play the same style of football. They're always going to press high up the field when they don't have the ball, and they're always going to take their time and try to build out from the back and be patient in attack. And it's to their detriment sometimes, and it can be to their success sometimes also. This year, I think it's been a lot more to their detriment, and I also think that may be to the fact that he's been in the Premier League now for a couple seasons. He's probably starting to get found out a bit by some of the more established Premier League teams and managers, and I think that if he doesn't change his ways, I don't see these results changing for Brighton. I think that it's going to continue to be the same thing where they're beating the teams they should be beating, and they're just going to lose in games like this when they should be losing against some of the bigger teams.
Yeah, I mean, I will say he's probably got it'll sound weird, he's got one of the tougher jobs in the Prem, considering Brighton's transfer models. Yeah, like what they're looking to only bring in some cheap guys, maybe some guys they develop, and they're looking to flip them for big money. Like they lost their starting keeper, starting playmaker in McAllister, Caicedo, midfielder, and a bunch of other names who were pretty decent contributors. But yeah, it's tough to just continue every time and not necessarily replace the talent with similar levels of play. So that's the hard part. And then I think you mix in his stubbornness and then some injuries. It's kind of, I'm not sure he's necessarily made for this. I think when it's going well, I think he's fantastic at getting the best out of players. But the amount of turnover in the squad, and the injuries and stuff like that, I think it's really difficult to judge him truly as a coach, because I think it's a very unique situation, kind of similar to like some Portuguese league teams where we're just producing players and having to replenish with the young guys. We end up going through ruts and poor forms and stuff like that, even one season to another. So I think he's in a tough situation. But I will agree that I think he has been found out, and he's probably cooled off a bit in terms of one of the top managers in the league.
Yeah, just something that I noticed I wanted to highlight. And then finally, we'll move to the big one, the big game that honestly didn't live up to any expectation. I thought it was one of the poorer games I've seen this season. It was City playing host to Arsenal at the Etihad, and I think both teams will kind of be kicking themselves. I know Arteta could hardly contain his smile in the post game interview. He's kind of being a rat. I think he was thrilled to go to City and get a point. And to be honest, it looked like that's what they set up to do. I mean, they weren't threatening too much. So I think City had the better of the chances. But I have a question mark in City's starting 11. I was very surprised to see him go with Kovacic and Rodri. I felt like he was maybe respecting Arsenal a little bit too much. I was kind of wondering why he had. I think he just had too many of the same players: Kovacic, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Foden, all similar players. In my opinion, I think they would have been better off going with someone like Doku from minute one, or even Grealish on the wing. So I don't know what you guys thought of that, but in terms of the football to dissect it, there wasn't much. I mean, we saw Saka do his trademark limp off the field after a bad performance against a big team. He's been coming under fire for that, because he certainly offered nothing to the game. Odegaard couldn't really get an imprint on the game. I don't know. What did you guys think?
I think personally you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think Pep got the tactics just a little bit wrong. I mean, he got them right to dominate the game and play, but he didn't have that one player that could offer something different. I mean, Haaland always offers you something different, but Haaland's not the type of player that really gets involved in the game and involved in the build-up, in the attack, in the phases before the ball gets to the striker. So I think if you're right, if he had like a Doku or even like a Julian Alvarez, I think could have really strived in this game if they had someone behind Haaland. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, and Alvarez was the introduction. I was waiting for him to introduce him. Right. A 0-0 game at home, and he just never did it. Yeah, it was very weird.
Yeah, and other than that, I mean, it was, like you said, I mean, it was a horrible game. I feel like every time I watch City Arsenal, the game is not entertaining at all. It's boring. They talk about it like it's going to be the greatest game of all time, like the second coming of Jesus Christ in terms of football games, but it sucks every time. Like it feels like nobody wants to score every time I watch these two teams play. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this game, like, just all bark, no bite, like, in every single sense of the game. When it came to counterattacks, they all looked electric. They looked like they were about to go. And all of a sudden, they pull up, nothing. There'd be a hard challenge. I think there's one time De Bruyne got up like he wanted to fight somebody. Within 2 seconds, cooled off, over, shakes his hand. So it's like There was nothing in this. Like, they were ready to go for it and stopped every time. So yeah, it was definitely, as a neutral, it was so frustrating. I guess you can kind of appreciate the tactical stuff, the tactical battle between the two managers. I cannot stand the fact that this game with 8 center backs on the pitch. That should be friggin' illegal. But yeah, you mentioned about Guardiola. I think another case of him overthinking a big game with the tactics. And I think it's really, you're really coming into an issue, I think, with Haaland, as weird as it sounds. He can't play in a team like this. No. He needs much more service, and he can't be part of the creation of attack, because I thought he was basically useless this entire game. I don't think he really did much. But I will say, I do think Arteta kind of has Pep just a bit. I think he's able to contain him a bit when he needs to. Mm-hmm. I think his downfall is he focuses too much on stopping him and not actually on going for it. Because I think they definitely had the chance that if I were to pick 25 minutes in, who I think would nick it, it would have been Arsenal for sure. But they didn't want it.
Do you think that the overthinking comes from the fact that Arteta's a child of Pep and knows Pep's ideas somewhat?
I mean,
Maybe.
in this case, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe, and maybe that's why he elected to go with two center defensive midfielders. That's what I would classify Kovacic and Rodri as. But I just didn't think they need that. I mean, that's what Arsenal line up with, and I think it was obvious that they were going to have the bulk of the ball. I just thought they needed a little bit more electricity or pace, really, because something I will give this Arsenal team credit for is they're actually quite good when they're asked to sit in and defend. I think Saliba was my man of the match. He marshaled Holland pretty well, and so did Gabriel. But yeah, it was a 0-0 game. I mean, pretty fitting on Easter. I know I made the joke in the group chat that both of these sides laid in eggs. It was hard to tell if Jesus had risen or not because Gabby Jesus did all of nothing for Arsenal. He's been absolutely appalling since his knee injury. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what Arsenal do in the summer because I think they're going to look back at games like this, and even there was that run previously where they won a couple games without scoring a goal, and I think there's going to be some big investment to be made at the number 9 spot for Arsenal. But like we said, it was a 0-0 game. Liverpool's were winners on the weekend. They have a 2-point gap now. They go top over Arsenal. It's 67 points for Liverpool, 65 for Arsenal, 64 for City. What did you guys think? Is Liverpool gonna go on to win this league, or do Arsenal and City still have a say? Because if you ask me, I think it's not over until City are mathematically out of reach. But that's my opinion.
Personally, I honestly have no idea. I feel like this result. I mean, I know Liverpool benefit from a draw, but I really don't feel like I can say Liverpool are gonna go and win it from this. You know, it's really still a toss up for me. I feel like this doesn't really change much.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's definitely Liverpool's to lose.
Right.
They're cruising right now. They should expect it, but I think that Europa League could become a distraction. I mean, it could be a good distraction for everybody, really, but they're probably in a better situation where they don't necessarily need to go full strength there to still have a good chance. So that's one benefit they have, but I think they still have United that'll give them a game, and they close the game at Everton. So I don't know. I'd like to say they're the favorites, but
I will say I think out of all the European ties, I think Arsenal's is going to have the most weight on their ability to challenge in the Premier League. I think if Arsenal get absolutely fucking pumped by Bayern Munich, I think that's going to derail everything for them. I think it's going to be exactly like what happened at the end of last season, and they're just going to fall apart. But if they go and knock Bayern Munich out, they're going to be flying. I don't know how you could not feel like you can go and win the league after that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think you could say the same thing about Man City as well, having to play Real Madrid over 2 legs. Who, I mean, we're going to see round 3 or 4 now by this point in the Champions League, but we'll see. The only other thing I wanted to say is, Jay, you brought up Haaland. Did you guys see what Roy Keane said about Erling Haaland in the build-up play? He said that he likens him to be a League 2 level player. Said that his build-up play is that of a 4th division player in England, which I thought was pretty funny because it's something that, I mean, I guess when you're banging in goals, it's easy to sweep things under the rug like that. I know. At least I remember when they were being linked to Harry Kane, thinking how Harry Kane would be the absolute perfect type of player to play in a Pep system at the number 9 role, and Haaland certainly isn't that type of player. So it was interesting that you brought that up. I didn't know if you guys had seen that quote.
yeah, I
did
saw
see
something
that.
similar.
The only thing I think about is Roy Keane's probably not the biggest fan of the Haaland family, so
Right.
I can't imagine he's ever going to have nice things to say about any Haaland.
That's true. But I mean, even when he first went there, I never thought. Like, I mean, I was completely surprised by last season. I never thought he fit the City team. I don't think he was that mold of a player to play in Pep's system. But he obviously proved us wrong last year. But I think it kind of limits Pep in what he can do. and kind of experiment with, because I think you definitely need that creativity in attack when he's playing.
Right, yeah, and with that, I think that about sums up the Premier League for this weekend. You guys can let us know in the comments below what you guys think the result did for the top end of the table. Is it Liverpool's league to lose, or do City and Arsenal have a say? We'll find out. Not too many games left to play, but we'll move to Italy. We'll move to the Serie A. In the opening game, we saw Napoli get absolutely smashed by Atalanta. It's 4 games without a win. I can't imagine that Calzone's on the hot seat, because I just don't believe that Napoli will employ a 4th coach this season. But yeah, tough times for Napoli after coming off of a decent result, a draw against Inter. Perhaps the international break came at the wrong time for them as well. But yeah, hosting Atalanta, losing 3-0. Not good. Not a game that I got to see, but I did get to speak to an old head Napoli fan at a local Italian club, Massimo. He said, sometimes you can be the better team football-wise, and you lose the game. I can't speak to that, but by all accounts of the stats, I mean, they had double the possession that Atalanta had. They had almost double the shots that Atalanta had, and they went on to lose the game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said with the stats, Atalanta created no big chances in this game, and they run away 3-0 victors. Away from home, too, at the Maradona, no less, which is never an easy place to go. And I want to shine a light on Moranchuk. I feel like every time he steps into the team and fills in for whether it's De Ketelaere or Lookman or whoever it is, he provides the exact same impact that they make in the game. He's popping up with assists and goals. He does it again this week. He did it against Sporting in both legs. I think he has 6 or 7 goal contributions. It is in his last 4 games for club and country. He's just a player that really impresses me every time I see him play. He's not really a nailed-on starter for them. He's a bit part player, really, but he's just fun to watch every time I see him play.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point, and he's really been the one bright spot in Atalanta. I mean, if you look at the run of games that they've had, I mean, this is their first win in the Serie A since the end of February. I mean, they went the whole month of March without winning a game, and they were starting to fall out of the European race. Obviously, they knocked out Nate's Sporting for the Europa League. They got a nice 2-2 draw against Juventus. Now they've gone away to Napoli and won 3-0. It's a lot of momentum going into tomorrow's fixture. They have a Coppa Italia semifinal where they'll be playing against Fiorentina, but they're kind of breathing down Roma's neck in the table. Are you worried?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely worried. We didn't do ourselves any favors this week either.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll move to the other Rome team. When we saw Igor Tudor hosting Juventus, a team that he was a member of on the coaching staff. For those who don't remember, I think he was Andrea Pirlo's assistant when Juventus won the league under Pirlo. Since then, I know he's coached Verona, he's coached Marseille in France. Now he's back in Italy with Lazio, a coach that I've admired for a little while. I like his system. It's a 3-back, not a system that we've really seen Lazio play too much. But he pulled it out, and they got the win. They beat Juventus 1-0, another lackluster Juventus result. But it was interesting to see Felipe Anderson line up in a right wing-back role, something that I never really thought I'd see. Long-time Lazio man. He's been one of Serie A's purer wingers of the last decade, in my opinion. But pretty cool. Lazio win, a late goal. Guendouzi with the assist. Marusic with the goal. Is Juventus' season spiraling out of control, Gianluca? What do you think?
Juventus' season is absolutely spiraling out of control. But real quick, I want to say on the Lazio side, we all know Maurizio Sarri to be like this entertaining and brilliant style of manager. I felt like Igor Tudor played a more attacking minded style of play than Sarri has played all season, and it was.
Yeah.
I hate to say it because I obviously dislike Lazio very much. I mean, Juventus and Lazio probably the two most teams I dislike the most in Italy playing against each other. But if you're a Lazio fan, it's got to be very refreshing to see that. And I mean, just the improvement in the squad. The new manager bounce seems to be alive and kicking for Lazio. I mean, to get a win at Juventus or against Juventus is definitely a good result for the first one for Tudor.
Yeah, love to see Juve downfall.
Of course, yeah, and obviously today, on the day of recording, they did play Juventus again in the Coppa Italia semifinal and lose 2-0, but it's nice to see Lazio kind of regain some form in the Serie A European race, because I'll tell you what, if Lazio are able to get themselves back into the race, it's gonna be tight. for this European race. They're a point above Napoli. They're only 6 points behind Roma in fifth place. So
We have the derby coming up.
yeah, that's right. So I believe it's Saturday. It's this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But it is nice to see Igor Tudor back in the league, somebody who I admire a lot. And another couple teams in the European race, we had my Milan beating Fiorentina. Rafael Leao is playing unbelievable. I can't believe it. Every time I watch him play, these last couple weeks, he seems to be getting better and better. He's certainly kind of silenced the demons, his scoring demons, that is. He did go through a drought, but he's getting it done. Goals, assists. He had a wonderful backheel assist, although I thought it was kind of lucky. It didn't really move me too much when I saw it. But yeah, a wonderful solo goal, just motoring past Fiorentina's defense. A big result for us. I mean, we've opened up a little gap between Juventus and perhaps we're in the title race for the Scudetto. We do have a Milan derby coming up in a couple of weeks. I saw a bunch of Milan accounts kind of doing the math out, saying, if Inter can go away to Udinese and draw, and then Milan beat them, and they drop points here and drop points there, some people think that we'll win the league by a point. But I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of starting to believe again. To be honest, we haven't lost in the Serie A in a good while. So I don't know. What do you think, Jeff?
Problem is Inter haven't lost in this area in a good while either. So that's the real issue there. I have to say though, I mean, what a luxury it must be to have Leao in your team. He's such a joy to watch. I mean, it's like he's a cheat code. Honestly, I mean, there's not one defender in the league that can stop him. Honestly, there's nothing you can do about him when he's at full tilt, when he's running at full speed at you. I mean, if I was a defender, I would just be shitting my pants. Honestly, he's just so fantastic, and it's really nice too because I felt like he was kind of second guessing himself in his decision making with his final ball because he was getting criticized so much, and now that he's been scoring and getting back in the assists and the goals, it's really helped him to do that pretty much every week now. I mean, he looks so lethal. I think if you have any chance at all of being in the title races, he's going to have to put in a Serie A player of the season caliber performance like he did a couple of seasons ago if you want any chance of getting in that race.
Yeah, he's looked unbelievable, and I think international break helped too because he was able to kind of go there, prove he still got it there. Only had to play about 45 minutes, and then was basically free to rest and come back, and he's still in the same form. So I think that was great. I'm sure some people were definitely biting, kind of holding on a little bit, making sure he wasn't going to get hurt and kind of ruin everything on an international break. But Milan probably a little bit too little, too late. I know you want to believe. But you guys finally look good, and to think at a lot of points in the season, fans were calling for Pioli's head is kind of crazy because I think you guys you're comfortably finishing second, and you might even have a late push for the title too.
Yeah, and to be honest, as a Milan fan, it is a little annoying in a way that we found this form. It's form that I always knew this team had, especially after some of the purchases we made. I mean, you look at the 11 today, it was a rotated one. We saw Pulisic, who arguably has been our best attacker, even more so influential than Leao in some games. And Chukwueze came in, he deputized well. He doesn't get on the score sheet, but he was making players miss. He was drawing a lot of attraction. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek, again, in this number 10 role. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I really wanted Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. That was my dream signing in the summer. Loftus-Cheek, I think, is doing just as good, if not better, than Milinkovic-Savic would have done in this team. We saw Johnny Reinders get an assist as well for Leao. It was a great pass that unleashed him for his solo goal. So, yeah, we're in unbelievable form. And, it was only a couple weeks ago that it was rumored that Pioli, no matter how Milan did, what they finished, what they won this season, was going to be done. And now all I've been seeing is that it's more than likely that he's going to get a contract renewal and stay. So, it's good to see. We're in good form. Obviously, we are going to play Gianluca's Roma in a couple weeks in the Europa League, and if we don't smash them, I'll honestly be shocked. I think there's no reason why we shouldn't make a European semifinal again this season. So it'll be good for this group. It's nice to see them kick on. I think the group seems tighter more than ever, and I've really been enjoying a lot of the quotes from Rafael Leao. somebody who seems so tied to Milan, absolutely in love with the club. And it's even just the little things like him wearing this little wristband. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but he's been wearing this red and black striped, almost like a sweatband with his name on it and the number 10. And, he was asked about it, and he said that, a fan gave it to him, and he said it was one of the, happiest moments in his career. He's never felt so tied to a city, and it's so nice to see us embracing him. And even though the Milan fans can be kind of hard and kind of mean at times when he's not in his best form, it's nice to see Milan players again actually seem like they want to stay for Milan for their whole careers. I mean, we went through a banter era, and there was certainly some players not even close to the ability that Rafael Leao has that I was sad to see go in our banter era. But it's nice. It's been a good time to be a Milan fan, and especially like you said, when you have someone like Rafael Leao. I mean, I think we have a Ballon d'Or capable player on our team. It's been a long time since then, but to be honest, it's how all things should be in the football world. I think Milan should have the best players, so I've been happy. I mean, we're going to lose Giroud. That was the other big news this week. It seems like he's signed a contract with LAFC, and he'll be leaving, which, to be honest, is fine. I've been waiting for this. I mean, I love Giroud. He's been a great servant to the club. I'll never forget his time. He broke Milan's number 9 curse, the famous curse after Inzaghi. Nobody who's ever worn the 9 shirt has done well, but it's been nice. He broke that, and hopefully we'll get a European trophy, and Giroud will ride off into the sunset, which I think his career deserves. But enough about Milan. We can move to another top 4 team who are absolutely on fire. They're really reaching new heights every single game that I think nobody would have expected. And it's Thiago Motta's Bologna, who are 2 points behind Juventus. And I think if you would have told anybody that by week 30, Bologna would be 2 points behind Juventus, they'd probably think Juventus were going to finish 12th, to be honest. But here we are. It's 2024. Thiago Motta's a coach, and Bologna are in 4th place. I mean, it's a Bologna team who, a lot of people forget how big a club Bologna is. I mean, Bologna have won 7 Scudetti. They're the 5th or 6th most winning club in Italy. So it's pretty cool to see them back, even still without Joshua Zirkzee. What do you think, Gianluca?
Yeah, I think it's just absolutely incredible to see what they do. I look forward to watching them play every week. They're just so entertaining. I mean, it's so much fun to watch them play. Someone I want to talk about is Calafiore. I know we've mentioned him a few times, but he's someone I've known about for a while because he came through Roma's academy. He made his debut with us. He was not a center back when he debuted with us. He was playing left wing back in Mourinho's 3-back system, and I thought he was pretty good. I didn't think he would be doing the things he's doing in this Bologna team by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, he's unbelievable at center back. He's so good defensively, and he's such a presence in the air. That's what the thing that really surprises me. I know we've been talking a lot about how good he is going forward, and playing ball and really just contributing in every way, shooting, crossing the ball into the box, playing such direct passes. But his aerial defensive abilities are really impressive. I mean, I would have never expected that when I saw him play a year ago for Roma. So I think it's really nice. It's really surprising. I wish we didn't sell him if he was going to turn up and do things like this, but it's cool to see. Hopefully we have a sell-on clause in that, because that would be very nice. I think he's going to command a very, very nice fee if he goes in the summertime, because I think he's been one of the standout players for Bologna in the season.
Yeah, it seems like mainstream football Twitter has finally figured out about Bologna this week. I think there's been a little bit of a buzz around new young managers with Klopp leaving and Xabi Alonso committing to Leverkusen next year, that they're kind of looking for new young managers. And everybody's kind of been like, oh, Bologna's been doing pretty well under the radar. But we've been on it since day one. But no, I think Thiago Motta is going to be a very, very good coach as he progresses through his career, and this is no small feat for him. And I mean, as you said, it's always good to see the historic clubs back to their best, back where they belong. Like you said, Milan should have some of the best players in the world. We should have teams like this fighting for the top 4. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's been nice watching Bologna. And, I mean, even you look at some of the run of wins that they had, they've only lost twice in 2024 I mean, one of them was to Inter at home. It was a scrappy game, 1-0 a couple weeks ago. The other one was to Cagliari, but we'll forget about that. But they've beaten all the teams around them. They've beaten Fiorentina. They've beaten Lazio. They've beaten Atalanta. They drew with Milan. They've beaten Roma. So I mean, they're absolutely where they should be. And honestly, every time Bologna go into these big games, I'm thinking to myself, like, are they really going to win this one too? And sure enough, they do. I mean, they won again on the day of recording. We'll talk about it in a later episode, but yeah, they're in unbelievable form. They've opened up a 5-point gap between themselves and fifth place Roma. And I mean, even if the Serie A gets a fifth Champions League spot, they won't even need it. They look like they're going to pass Juventus at this rate. But just another game to talk about, the Inter game. They win again. I don't know. I mean, do you have anything to say? It was an expected result at home against Empoli. But I mean, I don't really have too much to offer other than Alexis Sanchez scored, so that was cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It was cool to see Alexis Sanchez score, but other than that, it's a pretty typical result. I mean, I think we could talk about in the Empoli side. I mean, that relegation fight. Nobody wants to win. Nobody wants to stay up. I mean, it just stays tight. I think it's 3 points now that separates. What is it? Yeah, 3 points that separates 14th to 19th. So
right.
Yeah, like I said, it seems like nobody wants to stay up. They all 6 of those teams seem like they want to go down. And every week it seems like we have 2 or 3 relegation 6-pointers. And even those games, I mean, nobody can win those games. They draw every time. So I don't know. It's really interesting to see who's going to go down in Serie A. I really couldn't call it.
I mean, yeah, there was no wins from 10th to 20th place in the last game week. And then if you go back the game week before, they all lost from 14th to 20th. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think anybody wants to stay up.
Yeah, it's sad from an Empoli perspective, too. I mean, Empoli, a team who I've kind of had my eyes on because I know a couple months ago, I mean, we were talking about this managerial bump they had with Davide Nicola coming in. They went 5 or 6 games unbeaten, and now it's 4 games, 4 losses, no goals scored either. And Bayern Niang has used all of his magic. And yeah, I mean, they look destined to go down too. There's about 5 or 6 teams that look destined to go down. So we'll see what happens. But from an Inter perspective, I'm kind of getting excited for the Euros. And this Inter team, unfortunately, is the team that is making me excited. I mean, we saw DiMarco score. Barella and Bastoni had man of the match performances in their own right in this game. Acerbi was decent, although, like we've said last week, I don't believe he should be included. I think he should have got a little bit of a ban, a little bit of a reprimanding, but we'll see. There's a nice little core of Italian players in this Inter team, so I mean, there's something positive from a Milan fan there about Inter. But if you don't have anything else to add about the Serie A, I think we're all set for this weekend's storylines and fixtures.
The only thing I'm going to say is the same thing I've been saying about Roma for the last, I don't know, since De Rossi came in. I love Miles Svilar. I mean, we should have lost this game. We should have got absolutely our asses kicked by Lecce. We had no business even drawing, and the only reason we did was Miles Svilar. He made, I think, 6 saves it was in the game. Again, 6 world-class saves like he does every weekend, and it's just so nice to see. I'm so surprised at the goalkeeper he's become from what he was known to be. You know what I mean? Like that image that people had of him to be that mistake-laden goalkeeper to he's like so confident instilling in this team. I just really enjoy it. To the step he's improved this team from Rui Patricio to now is just so nice. I've been calling for Rui to go, and I'm very happy that Svilar stepped in and done as well as he has.
Yeah, that was my bad. I didn't even see the Roma game on this list. But yeah, you raise a good point. He has been good, and when he's not keeping clean sheets, he's saving penalties. So he seems to be at a very high level of confidence. He's definitely been a highlight in this De Rossi side, something that De Rossi has come in and changed. And credit to De Rossi. I mean, he's instilled confidence in not only him, but a lot of other players. The only thing I will say, I mean, you look at these next run of games for Roma. I mean, it's Lazio, Milan again, Bologna, Napoli, Juventus, Atalanta, all in a row. I mean,
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. That's why I
Oof.
think That's why I wasn't. I really didn't have much going into this game. I knew we were probably not going to feel our strongest 11 because that run of games and the fact we're coming off an international break, it would have allowed so many of our starters and more important players to have an extra week's rest that some of these big teams weren't able to get. So I think it actually
Right.
was to our benefit, and we kind of got away with it. We ended up getting a point out of it in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and with that being said, I think we're all set in Italy, Jason. So if you want to take over and walk us through some of Portugal's biggest headlines, the floor is yours.
Yeah, pretty much nothing crazy. I think there's a little bit of a international break hangover, which didn't seem like the case for in many other leagues, but certainly was for Benfica at least. I think they played all right, but nothing crazy. But they were able to scrape a 1-0 victory against a pretty poor Shops team. I think they probably played better than the score suggested, but yeah, still probably disappointing for their standards, and kind of just goes with how they've been going this season, with kind of just some lackluster performances and not really going for it and finishing well. So we'll see how that goes as we end the season. Um, we still have the league in contention. We still have we're out of the cup now, and we still have Europa League, so we could still have a good season. So we'll see how it goes from there. But when it comes to Sporting, again, conceding early and having to fight back, I think they've kind of made a little bit of a habit of that. But usually winning by 4 or 5 the last few times, but only a 2-1 victory today. A little bit of a rotation, but one good note, I think St. Juice played his first full 90 minutes in maybe 9 months, if not even since last season. I think he's always hurt, so that's a good sign for them. But yeah, taking care of business as leaders should of the league. So impressed that they're able to keep going. So they're going to make it tough. But on Saturday, we face off basically what I think will be the title decider. I think whoever wins that game goes on to win the league. I don't think they'll slip up against anybody else. With the exception, I think Sporting still has Porto or Braga, if I'm not mistaken, or both. But I don't think they slip up twice if they are to beat Benfica, and it is at Sporting, so that'll definitely be a tasty affair. So no Nate to defend himself today, but I'll give him a little bit of props. They played well, but I'm feeling confident that Benfica can get a result.
Can I ask, Jay? Can I ask you? Does it make you nervous as a Benfica fan that Sporting can still get results even when Gyökeres doesn't play well?
Yes. So I've always been of the opinion that Benfica had, at least at the beginning of the season, Benfica had the coaching advantage, but absolutely not the case now. I think Ruben Amorim has proven himself to be world class in terms of squad management, rotations, adapting to in-game situations. I think he's done brilliant in terms of how he plays players at specific times, how he's managed players like Quaresma coming into the team and playing well, but not forcing him in there and keeping players out past when they were supposed to, keeping St. Juice kind of manageable, rotating Coates with his age. I think that's been done very well by him. So that part is what scares me. But the team talent or the individual talent, I do think Benfica has significantly more talent in the team and more established talent.
I agree.
But yeah, that's game's not played on paper, so we'll see what happens come Saturday.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Ruben Amorim's coaching expertise too, because similar to Thiago Motta, he's been the other name that's been thrown around, and it looks like he's going to be shopped by a number of the big clubs too, especially with Xabi Alonso seemingly tying himself down to Leverkusen. I guess the other question that I would ask is, I know a couple of weeks ago we were kind of highlighting these 3 Benfica Sporting fixtures, and we were kind of saying we were wondering if whoever got knocked out of the cup would have their season derailed. You seem like you're pretty confident. Do you think that Benfica mentally might suffer being knocked out of the cup, or is it kind of, hey, we're in a good spot in the league, we still have a European tie to play out as well? What are your thoughts? How are you feeling?
Yeah, to be honest, so I mean, we didn't really want to talk about the game, but the performance was good. We'll cover the whole thing next week. But it was a good performance, and they played very well. Probably the best game of the season that they've played. Um, some choice decisions that kind of derailed it, but I think it also balances us out now. So we're in two competitions, they're in two competitions. I think if we were in three competitions, we might have, granted, if they're back to back, it might have played with us a bit. And I think they're probably going to feel hard done by. And going to this game on Saturday with the will to go ahead and right the wrong and go ahead and fight and get the win. So I'm more confident going into this weekend, but yeah, anything can happen.
Yeah, and I mean it's certainly the business end of the season for a lot of clubs like Benfica, fighting for the league, fighting for league cups. Because I mean, you go to Sporting, and then right after that, you're hosting Marseille in the first leg of the next round in the Europa League. So we'll see what happens. But if you don't have anything else from the Portuguese league, we can move to some other domestic leagues, some other interesting results. We'll move to Spain, La Liga, where we saw Barcelona scrape past Las Palmas, a Las Palmas team who have been struggling. They've been hurting. I believe their goalkeeper was sent off. Did you catch the game, Gianluca? What did you think?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a typical performance of Barcelona this season. I think that they've been having. I don't think they played bad in the game, but I don't think they never look like they're gonna like score. If that makes sense, like they don't look threatening at all. I think Lewandowski's definitely been a shadow of himself, and I mean Rafinha has been, in my opinion, awful the entire time he's been at Barcelona. I know he's the one that's on the score sheet on the day for them, but I just it was nothing impressive to me to see Barcelona come away with this result. I mean, it's good for their form, good for their confidence. Obviously, they have some big games coming up in the Champions League, but I would have liked to see them do a bit better. I mean, win by a bit more than 1-0 against a team like Las Palmas, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't have much to comment on, but I will say is they do have, I think it's 8 or 9 days from now. I think it's about 12 days until they play again, and it's going to be PSG in the Champions League. We'll see if this result gives them some momentum. I mean, they are in a pretty good vein before. I mean, Barcelona haven't lost since January the 27th, so we'll see what they can do going in to the Champions League against PSG. But some other big games we'll talk about. Girona got a 3-2 victory against Betis. Perhaps they're still alive. Maybe they'll finish in second place. I mean, they're certainly out of the title race now, but I know a couple weeks back we were wondering if they would even be able to stay in the top four. I think this was a massive result for them against Betis. I think it almost cements their place, in my opinion, especially with Athletic Club losing to Real Madrid as well over the weekend. What do you guys think of how Girona's been making it out?
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that it's a huge result for them. I mean, if they want to stay in touching distance of Barcelona and finishing second place, and maybe like you said, with that outside chance of chasing down Real Madrid for the title, they have to win just about probably every game from here on out. I think that they've been kind of struggling due to the fact that Dovbyk hasn't been scoring, and we finally saw that again this week. I mean, it's his first 2 goals since January, if you could believe it or not, considering the vein of form that he was in the first half of the season when Girona was right there neck and neck with Real Madrid. So I hate to say it, but I think you could really point all your signs to their fall off being the fact that they've been struggling for goals lately. And now that he's back on the score sheet, we saw them bang 3 against a Betis side who are by no stretch of the imagination any slouches. They can definitely get a result against any of the top sides in Spain. So it was nice to see Girona get a win because I think that they have every right to be up there based on the way they played this season for sure.
Yeah, I think I'll say Girona maybe got a little bit lucky with the timing of all this, because if they did lose this, I think they might have gone into a free fall. I think they're probably going to cement their spot in third place with this win, with Athletic Club losing, like you said. But it also caught Betis at a really good time when they're struggling. I think that's 4 straight losses in the league now. Right. But yeah, I think they can probably, if they can keep a little bit of form up, I think they've pretty much got third locked up, which is a fantastic achievement. But yeah, those dreams of a title or a second place, I think, are long gone.
Yeah, and we bring up the title race, and it really is only one team that's destined to win this La Liga title this season, and it's Real Madrid. I just mentioned that they did beat Athletic Club on the weekend, albeit a heavily rotated Athletic Club. They do have a Copa del Rey final coming up next weekend, so I think their eyes were already past this Real Madrid game before the ball was even kicked. But some highlights for Real Madrid was a Rodrigo Brace. He's been in really good form, somebody who I enjoy. Brahim Diaz in the squad in the starting 11 and other assists. He's been filling in well, whether it's had to be for Vinny, Rodrigo, or anyone across the Real Madrid front three. He filled in really well for Jude when he was hurt. Jude also on the score sheet with an assist. But I think the big talking point, in my opinion, is Militao is back. And that's all Rodrigo wanted to talk about, too, in his post-game interview. He said he was happier to see Militao get back on the field than he was to score 2 goals. I think it speaks to his character. It speaks to the character of this Real Madrid team. And I mean, Militao, in my opinion, when he was fit, I mean, he was one of the better center backs in world football. He was unbelievable when Real Madrid made their quest to the Champions League final, where they won a couple of seasons ago. So I think it could be I think it's going to be interesting to see if he starts against Man City. Obviously, that's going to be their next fixture in the Champions League. Is hosting Man City. So, what do you guys think for Real Madrid? I mean, the league's effectively over, but do you think they're going to have momentum, and can they do it? Can you think they'll get past Man City in a couple weeks?
I think they have every chance to, and I think Militao playing, if he does, is going to be a huge factor in that. It does make me a little sad, though, because, I mean, I think about Militao coming back from his ACL injury. I feel like Courtois suffered his around the same time. If Courtois hadn't suffered the second knee injury, he probably would be coming back too at this time. However, I do think they'll be okay with Lunin in the net. But I think if there's any team in the Champions League that can get the job done against Man City, it's absolutely Real Madrid. I mean, just their history, I feel like it almost spurs them on sometimes, even when they have no right to win a game. It's just the fact that they're Real Madrid and the Champions League is their competition that sometimes helps them get the job done. So I think if there's anybody that can beat Man City, it's definitely Real Madrid.
Yeah, agreed. I hope it turns out to be as good as some of the previous Champions League encounters that they've had. But yeah, I think much different scenarios for the two league-wise, like we've talked about. So I think you'll probably expect Real Madrid to have a little bit more in it for the game, because I think the league's pretty close to wrapped up. So, yeah, I probably think that they'll start turning their focus towards the Champions League.
Yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to touch on in this Real Madrid team, I believe the report I saw this week too was it seems like Andre Lunin is going to receive a new contract for Real Madrid. I know Gianluca has been saying that, you know, once Courtois comes back, you know, we were all kind of rooting for Lunin to at least get a loan move where he could be the number one somewhere else. But it seems like with this new Courtois injury, maybe Florentino Perez already has his goalkeeper of the future, and perhaps Lunin is going to be a mainstay in this Real Madrid team for years to come. But with that being said, we'll move to the other side of Madrid. Atletico Madrid went away to Villarreal, 2-1 victors. And like we said, for Girona, similarly, it was a big result for Atletico Madrid. They've leapfrogged Athletic Club. They're back into the top 4. And I know, you know, right before the international break, they were smashed by Barcelona. But, you know, they did come off the back of a really big result in the Champions League, knocking out Inter. They're going to go into next week and play Dortmund. So maybe this Villarreal result will kick them on.
Yeah, I agree. I think Atletico Madrid, it's really between them and Bilbao for that final Champions League place in Spain. And I think that if Atletico Madrid really wants any chance of making that 4th place, they're going to have to put in results like they did yesterday against Villarreal. They're going to have to grind out wins just like they did against Inter. They're just going to have to get the job done, no matter they're playing that old school Diego Simeone, just batter hell ball, or just attacking and more offensive like they have been this season. I know Griezmann's been absolutely shining for them. He wasn't too brilliant on the day, I don't think, but they're still able to get the job done in the end, and I think that that's exactly what they need, is to get all 3 points in a game like this.
Any comment, Jay, or we're good to move?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. Yeah,
That's fine.
that's pretty much it.
That's fine. And we'll move to the final relevant league in Europe, in the Bundesliga, where it's pretty much done and dusted. We saw the big game of the weekend was obviously Der Klassiker. It was Bayern hosting Dortmund, and unfortunately, in a season where Dortmund beat Bayern, they're not even close to lifting the Meisterschale. So that kind of sucks. I know in seasons past we were all absolutely dying for Dortmund to get any sort of result over Bayern. I can't say it was a surprising result. Obviously, this Bayern team has been so up and down under Tuchel, and it's a good result for Dortmund. They'll certainly have some pep in their step. Obviously, they're going to go away to Atletico Madrid in their next match, who we just talked about. But this Dortmund team are in unbelievable form. I mean, kind of under the radar. They're undefeated in 2024. They've had some big results. They've looked good in the Champions League. Jadon Sancho scores. I think he was celebrating. Did he score? He did score, right? No, he didn't. I'm sorry. I think it was. You're right. It was at AMA. I got confused because I saw he had a little post of making the peace sign with the Bayern logo behind him. So it looks like this Dortmund side is in pretty good spirits.
Yeah, it's very sad to me that out of all the seasons for Dortmund to go away to Bayern and
Right.
win 2-0 and absolutely play them off the pitch, really. I mean, I felt like Bayern played horrible for their standards on the day. Dortmund were definitely the better side and deserved to come away with 3 points. Something I do want to say about Sancho, I don't know if you've seen this video making the rounds. People are talking about him when he was dribbling at Kimmich. I don't know why people are making such a big hype about this because he goes nowhere. He dribbles himself into a corner and then Kimmich blocks his cross.
Yeah.
So I really don't understand what's so special about what he tried to do there. But other than that, I think it was a huge result for Dortmund, and it opens up an even bigger gap at the top of the Bundesliga table. And I think if I was a Bayern fan, I'd be really disappointed with Thomas Tuchel and some of his comments after the game. I mean, he does not do his team any favors in the way he talks about any of his players, and he never really seems to take the blame. He always seems to skate by putting the blame on himself and taking the fact that he got the tactics wrong, and that never really sat right with me. Throughout Thomas Tuchel's entire coaching career, really, he's never really felt like he's been at fault for anything he's done in his time at any club. So I think it's just about. I think he really feels like he's just kind of thrown the towel in. I mean, just kind of the way he talks about some of the things and some of the choices he makes and some of the things that happen in the game and the attitude of the players. He just seems like he doesn't care at all. And I think if I was a Bayern Munich supporter and member of that club, I think I'd be disgusted, really. I think I'd want him to go now, actually, if he was going to continue to carry things and carry himself in this manner, really.
Yeah, I think for Dortmund, it's just too little too late. They're now 20 points off first place.
Right.
And we've talked about how bad Bayern's been, and they're still 7 points clear of Dortmund. So I think that start and that instability they had was really just too much for them to handle. But nice to see that they're kind of recovering with some youth and a completely new team, pretty much.
Right.
I mean, players from like the last 3-4 seasons. You really got Hummels, Emre Can, and Brandt, and a lot of the team is all, with the exception of Sancho coming back, has all just kind of been coming back together. And
about Marco Reus.
Marco Reus is no longer a starter, which is crazy. So
leaving, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I'm pretty sure he's got on the way out. I don't know if it's fully confirmed yet, but like there's no like the big continuity is all gone here. So it's nice to see that they're finally starting to find their feet again. But just a little disappointing that it only happened this late. And like you guys said, winning against Bayern at Bayern essentially means nothing. It just makes them only 7 points ahead of them for second place.
Right. Yeah, I want to correct myself too. It's one loss, only one loss, not no losses that Dortmund have suffered this season. And you bring up the continuity. Someone rather who's been a constant mainstay in this fixture for the better part of 12, 15 years now. Mats Hummels was man of the match again in a Der Klassiker. The save off the line was out of this world. I mean, every time I watch this guy play, honestly, he takes my breath away. He's criminally underrated, somebody who should have won so much more in his career. I know he was, he was kind of villainized when he went to Bayern from Dortmund, and it's hard to blame the guy. I mean, he's been an unbelievable player for years. It's a shame that for him in his career that Dortmund weren't able to win the league last season, and now, like we say, they're able to go to Bayern this year, win, and it's pretty much a washed result. I think if anybody thought, I mean, if you had told anybody this season that Bayern were going to lose at home to Dortmund, you might have thought that was the title deciding game. I mean, it is April now. I mean, there's only 8 or 9 rounds left in the Bundesliga, so I mean, I guess you could say it was a title deciding result. It's just kind of wild that neither of these two teams are going to be lifting it. And with that, I mean, we'll move to Leverkusen. It's Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen who win late again. It's Patrick Schick scoring late again. And look, I mean, these are things you do when you're a team that sits on top of the table. You may not play the best football for 90 minutes. You might not, play to your best, rather, but you win results and win games in any way you can, and they pulled the Rapid out of the hat again. Pretty fitting on Easter weekend. So it looks like they're going to get the job done. And I agree, John Luke. It is kind of gross. Like, Tuchel himself basically said, "Yeah, the league's over." I mean, that was his takeaway. So
He
it's just a
conceded the
shame.
league to Bayern already. So yeah, I mean, as a Bayern fan, I'd be pissed, but yeah, no accountability. And I think it's a big issue. And to be honest, I think it's more of a Bayern issue than it's a Tuchel issue.
Right.
I don't think Bayern, from the top down, from CEO to groundskeeper to janitor, nobody will admit that Bayern just wasn't good enough and didn't play well enough. They'll think something else has to be done. Somebody else was to blame. They just won't take accountability because they just believe that they're the best and that's it. So yeah, hopefully a big wake up call for Bayern Munich, and we're done with all of this. We're the best, we deserve it, and they're actually going to fight for it again.
Any comments on Leverkusen, Gianluca?
Yeah, I think it's more of the same. I mean, like you said, it's exactly the stuff of champions. I mean, I remember we were on the train, I think, coming back from Boston, and it was like the 85th minute. They're losing 1-0, and I was like, oh, Leverkusen are losing. And then in my head, I was like, wow, I think I've said that the last 3 or 4 games in a row now for Leverkusen, where it's going into the last 10, 15 minutes of the game and they're losing. Are they going to stay undefeated? And sure enough, they get the job done again. It's that man, Patrick Schick, another former Roma boy, getting the job done. So it's pretty cool to see him shining and getting on the score sheet really whenever he's called upon. I know he's definitely not the main man. We really haven't seen our man, his name is escaping me. I can see his face right now. From Leverkusen, the striker, Victor Boniface.
Boniface, yeah.
He really was the main guy for them, scoring all the goals up front for them. And ever since he pulled his hamstring right before AFCON, he really hasn't come back into the side at all. And they haven't missed a beat. And I think that's really all down to Xabi Alonso and his tactics and his system. It just goes to show how much fun all those players have had playing for him and how much they really believe in it.
Yeah, and you bring up Xabi Alonso's system, something that I've been kind of surprised by and taken aback from, and perhaps it's something that I've noticed because of how good Leverkusen are doing. But I know Grimaldo is the one who's been grabbing most of the headlines with his goals and assists, but it seems like there's always a different man of the match for Leverkusen, and it sometimes it's guys you wouldn't even expect. Like this week, I know Andrich was the statistical man of the match, and I'm not sure how much player ratings matter these days, but it's crazy because there's been so many different guys who have won the man of the match award, whether it's Andrich, Palacio, Wirtz. There's been games where Xhaka has been the best player, and that's not even to mention somebody like Patrick Schick scoring a late winner, and we haven't even mentioned Frimpong or Grimaldo, the fullbacks, who have certainly had man-of-the-match performances in their own right. And I think, you made me think of it even more when you bring up someone like Victor Boniface, who's been an absolute afterthought. I mean, has anybody even said Victor Boniface's name? I mean, it looked like he was on pace to score 35 goals in this Leverkusen side. That's probably what he would be on right about now if he was able to stay fit the whole season. So yeah, it's just absolutely insane. It looks like they're not going to lose a game in the Bundesliga this season. I mean, really their only difficult fixture left is going away to Dortmund. So I mean, I would love to see them go undefeated. And now I'm almost already looking towards next year with this Leverkusen squad, especially if Xabi Alonso is going to stay. It seems like that was the confirmation that was doing the rounds in social media during the international break and shortly after coming into this game week. So we'll see what the future holds. But if nobody has any further comments, we can move to our Farva side. And I think Gianluca might want to put Mile Svilar in there for his clean sheet heroics. Were there any other goalkeepers that you felt like you should, or rather that you'd want to mention this week?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Shvilar is probably my main pick. The only other goalkeeper I will shout is Onana again. Actually, I was very impressed with him again. I think it's another step forward for him. I think he's been one of the few bright spots the past few weeks for Manchester United. And again, it was a great game for him. He made a lot of good saves, and he answered the call just about every time it was asked of him. Obviously, he lets in that last goal, but it's through no fault of his own. Nothing he could do about it, obviously. But
Yeah.
it's his reasoning that they get a point, just like Roma got a point for their game against Lecce.
I'll shout one more. So in the Benfica game, Shav's keeper, Nugeta, forgot to mention this. He had 3 penalty saves. Technically
right.
2 because one was retaken. Did concede a goal from a player under like 5'10", header. So there's one little knock on him, but he was very upset that he did not get man of the match over João Neves, who scored the winner. But yeah, saving 3 penalties is pretty insane in one game. So I'll definitely give him a nod.
I like that pick, Jay. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, let's do it. What was his name?
Nugeta.
Nugeta. Type that into the document for me so I remember it for when we do the recap. But we'll move to the defender spot now. I'm going to be honest, it's kind of hard to pick a defender. Not too many clean sheets in the big games around Europe. I know, obviously, City Arsenal was a 0-0. I think the standout defender, in my opinion, in the game was William Saliba, just because of how much did he have the ball. So he's my knee-jerk pick for this spot. But were there any defenders that caught your eyes this weekend, or is it a similar trend? Not it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, I can shout Tomas Araújo, who had to fill in for Benfica, kept a clean sheet. Probably only his like 6th start of the year, and most of them have come at right back. So yeah, I thought that was pretty impressive. He slotted in very nicely. So if we do lose Antonio Silva, I think he really just made a name for himself that he's next man up.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think, honestly, I almost want to say I was more impressed by Gabriel than Saliba. And I think that it's even more impressive to me because, like, Gabriel caught so much shit when he first broke into the Arsenal team, and people really did not rate him at all to be this caliber center back. And now, I mean, he's over here marshaling the best striker in the league, no problem. I mean, Haaland's still in his back pocket right now. So I think I would shout Gabriel over Saliba, to be honest.
Yeah, you raise a good point, and I'll be honest. I mean, Gabriel was the standout player for me, but I mean, I think Saliba got the Man of the Match award, and everybody was glazing him on social media. So perhaps I've been a victim of Prem tardation. But the only other center back I wanted to shout out to was Mats Hummels, just for the goal line clearance and going away to Bayern and keeping a clean sheet. So maybe Hummels will be in the flex, but I'm fine with putting Gabriel in there. I mean, it was a big result for Arsenal. So with that, we can move to midfielders. I'm going to be honest. I was hoping to have a Man City player be in this team. I was so sure that one of De Bruyne or Foden or Rodri were going to take the game by the balls, but nobody did. And I mean, across Europe from the games I watched, I mean, I thought Tijani Reinders, I thought Loftus-Cheek was good, but I think it'd be biased to put them in there. Surely there's other good performances. Were there any midfielders that caught your eyes? Maybe Alexis McAllister. He's kind of been he's been popping up in a couple of these five-a-sides.
Yeah,
I was going to pick him, actually, McAllister.
Yeah, I think McAllister looked really good. I also shout out Kudus again. I think looked really good in that Newcastle West Ham game. Another goal and assist. So yeah, he's really taking control of that team. So I thought that was a good performance. Don't want to shout another Benfica game player, but João Neves was fantastic and did score. So
I think he was the man of the match, right?
And he was the man of the match. Yes,
that's funny.
But yeah,
I mean, I'm good to pick McAllister. I know John Lucas said that was going to be his pick. It's got my vote.
yeah,
All right, let's
go with
do
it.
it.
Okay. And
Easy.
then forward spot, I'll start us off. I'm going to be honest, the best player I watched this weekend was Rafael Leao. I know it's easy for me to say that because he does wear the famous red and black shirt that I love so much. But across Europe, we had Isak, 2 goals and assists. He was brilliant. I
And
thought he was, yeah, but still got to
Pentax.
put him in. He's vital in build-up play.
No,
He
yeah,
did get
no,
an
you have to
assist.
shout him.
Adeyemi scored a great solo goal. Meep. It was Alphonso Davies-esque the way he cruised past Bayern and slotted home. And other than that, I mean, Patrick Schick grabs a late winner as well. But any forwards caught your eyes? Do we categorize Cole Palmer as a forward? 2 goals in a lackluster Chelsea team?
I
think you
think I think I like Leao, to be honest. I think Leao was
Yeah.
the one player that I just takes my breath away. Honestly, like there's sometimes I watch Leao play and I'm speechless because there's really no other way to describe him. He just can do whatever he wants. He just leaves you on the edge of your seat almost every time he has the ball. So I think he's the easy shout for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'll give one more quick shout. Musa Diaby, I think, did really well for Villa, goal and
Yeah.
assist.
Sure.
But yeah, I do think Leao is a pretty clear choice.
Yeah, and you bring up being speechless. I try to enjoy it as much as I can, but I'm telling you, I'll be lucky if I see another player that's this good or better play for Milan the rest of my lifetime. I truly mean that. He really is almost superficial sometimes, unnatural. Some of the things he does, it looks like he's not even running at full speed, and it's fitting. I think it was Leao's 200th appearance for Milan as well on the weekend, so I would love that he is in this squad. And now we have.
When you said not even running, that was the second goal exactly.
I mean, he was unbelievable.
like
Go watch
jogging.
it. I mean, yeah, he easily had another couple gears. It was unbelievable. But we're moving to the flex spot. There's some other names we shouted out. I would like to stick Mats Hummels in here personally, but there were some other good performances around Europe. Does anybody want to make a case for somebody else not named Hummels, or are we all right with slotting them in?
I like Hummels. I think it was outrageous to see the big man get his foot literally at the crossbar to keep that ball out. So I like it. Keeps a huge clean sheet against Bayern too in the Interklassiker. I think.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage in his career, there's no reason he should even be brought up in these conversations. So the fact that he put in a performance good enough for that, I think deserve a spot.
All right, well done. So he'll round out the team. And a reminder of our five-side, it's Hugo Negeda from Chaves. We have Gabriel from Arsenal. Alexis McAllister from Liverpool. It's not his first time in this squad. Rafael Leao makes his first appearance. Hopefully there's some more of those. Maybe he'll sneak into Europa League 1 in a couple weeks. And Mats Hummels as well. And with that being said, this has been episode 23 of Sons of Pitches. We'll be back in about a week's time. We have a bunch of midweek games that just happened today. There's some more to happen tomorrow. And off the back of that, we have some Champions League, some Europa League, some Conference League as well. So be sure to like and subscribe and keep on being a son of a pitch. We'll see you.